Not too long ago, war turned the land into a graveyard. Mountains of corpses piled up and rivers of blood flowed. This was the righteous demonic Great War, a battle that seemed like it would never end. But it did end when the heavenly demon was finally defeated by the martial god. With the war over, the legend of that fearsome martial god's fist began to spread. Cut to a few years later at a mountain dojo, the martial god Jinmyu is telling a group of kids his style is called the Koronti Fist. They aren't impressed. They think the name sounds way too weak. Jinmyu just laughs it off, telling them if they train hard, they'll realize that legendary power for themselves one day. His son, Jinkwon, isn't buying any of it. He straight up calls his dad a liar. Jinmyu doubles down, claiming his fist will make them invincible. Jinkwon keeps nagging him, saying he's always bragging about some rooster fist nonsense. He wonders if any of his father's stories are even real. The place itself doesn't look like much, just a tiny, rundown dojo hidden deep in the mountains. But Jinmyu seems perfectly content teaching kids in the middle of nowhere. He's basically just a big, goofy dad playing with his students. He whispers that his son is a bit of a grumbler, but he's got a good heart. He laughs like he hasn't got a care in the world. But the peace doesn't last. Jinkwon is peeking through the door and he's terrified. He watches as his invincible father suddenly collapses, sword sticking out of his back. Blood pools on the floor. Jinmyu is breathing heavy, multiple blades piercing through his chest. He realizes he's been poisoned with the deathbane herb, something so rare he thought it was extinct. His own senior disciples are the ones who did it. They're standing in the doorway like shadows. Leading them is Jin-am, the first senior disciple. Right behind him is Jiakyeon, the second senior disciple. Then there's Yuke Chuan, the third. And finally, Wang Pi, the fourth. Jinmyu just laughs at them. He can't believe they're this desperate for his power. Jin-am snaps, telling him to stop acting high and mighty. But Jinmyu gets the last laugh. He tells them they'll never get what they want because the power has already been passed down. The disciples lose it. They can't believe he's still mocking them while dying. Jinkwon watches from the door, tears streaming down his face as he sees his father's fist tighten one last time. Jinmyu tells his son to watch closely, from his every breath to his every movement. He begins to move, performing the ultimate martial art. He wants Jinkwon to burn this image into his memory. The power starts to build up, shaking the entire room. This is his final teaching. The disciples realize something is wrong and scream for everyone to get back. Jin-am lunges forward, desperate to grab that absolute power before it's gone. But Jinmyu finally throws the punch. For a second, the mountains are quiet. Then a massive shockwave erupts, visible for miles across the range. Once the dust settles, Jinkwon runs to his father's side. Jinmyu looks at him with a weak smile. He admits that all that talk about being invincible might have just been a bluff. Jinmyu looks at his son one last time. "Did you see it?" he asks. "This is my fist." The massive shockwave he left behind is still echoing through the valley. He calls his style invincible with a bloody grin, even in his final moments. He reveals the true name of the manual he's holding. The Infinite Fist Secret. Jinkwon can only stare at it through his tears. Jinmyu places a hand on his son's head, telling him the inheritance has already begun. He's got full faith that Jinkwon can do it. He tells him the ultimate martial art is one that binds every style into one, and it's up to Jinkwon to make it his own. And just like that, the legend fades away. His final wish is for his son to find his own path. Jinkwon is left alone with the weight of that inheritance and a single manual hidden in his father's robes. Nearby, the traitors can't believe Jinmyu actually chose mutual destruction. They're cursing his name. They're all battered and broken, realizing they would have been dead if it wasn't for Jiakyeon's quick footwork. One of them is coughing up blood, stunned that just a graze from that punch did this much damage. The leader orders them to find every single one of Jinmyu's disciples and his son. He wants them all dead. He's not taking any chances. He wants to pull the weeds out by the roots. He repeats that if you chop down a tree, you have to pull the roots out too. He's cold-blooded. Jin Kwon flees deep into the mountains, turning his back on civilization for 10 long years. Revenge is the only fuel he needs while he trains like a man possessed. By the age of 20, he finally starts to grasp the power his father left behind. He's spent every waking moment pushing his body to the limit. He's finally forged his own fist in the heart of the crater his father made. The time has finally come. He's ready to face the world again. Jin Kwon is 20 years old now, and he's out for blood. But the world he returns to after a decade isn't the one he remembers. It's a bit different. He looks completely confused as he watches a group of people walk by in strange gear. One guy's in full plate armor like it's a Tuesday. They're talking about guild interviews and B-rank requirements. Jin Kwon has no idea what any of that means. He wonders what the hell happened to the world while he was away. Everything seems like it's from another planet. The clothes, the gear, it's a lot to take in. He figures 10 years is a long time, but still, this is wild. He stares at the modern outfits the young women are wearing, wondering if this is the new normal. For a split second, he thinks maybe the world actually changed for the better. At least people look happy. But then he remembers why he came down here. He's looking for Yeonmu village. He looks over the edge of a cliff and sees a massive city where his village should be. Skyscrapers and neon lights everywhere. It's like someone hit the fast-forward button on the entire world. It's unrecognizable. He stops an old man walking by to ask what happened to his village. He's completely out of the loop. The old man, Shib Jobsu, is baffled. He asks if Jin Kwon has been living under a rock his whole life. Jin Kwon admits the clothing and the buildings are all new to him. He asks about gates, but he's just guessing at this point. The old merchant explains that about 10 years ago, massive holes started appearing in the sky. He calls them gates. A bizarre, dark energy started spewing out of them, changing everything it touched. The animals and plants that breathed it in mutated into demonic beasts. People just call them monsters now. Then these otherworldly beings called hunters started showing up. Everyone thought they were the good guys at first. But they just started attacking everything and everyone. It was a total massacre. Even a low-rank hunter was strong enough to wipe out groups of elite martial artists without breaking a sweat. Over 80% of martial artists were killed in that war. Just when things looked hopeless, the tide turned. At the height of the chaos, they appeared, the martial gods' very own disciples, now known as the Four Heavenly Kings. Just when everything seemed lost, they stepped in and started pushing the hunters back, turning the tide of the war. Suddenly, martial artists who had awakened as hunters began appearing everywhere, like weeds after a storm. With the new hunters and martial artists united under the Four Heavenly Kings, the enemy leader called for a truce, and the war finally ended. Shib Jobsu continues his history lesson, explaining that martial arts have been replaced by the era of skills, which are way more convenient. He calls it the dawn of the new Murim. Jin Kwon can't believe what he's hearing. He just came down from the mountain to find out the world is completely different. The old merchant tut-tuts, telling him he should try reading a newspaper once in a while instead of living like a hermit. Jin Kwon's heart sinks. The very people who murdered his father are now celebrated as the world's greatest heroes. Distracted by his thoughts, he almost walks right into a young woman. He's stunned by everything around him. Alice quickly apologizes for the near collision, but Jin Kwon is too busy being scandalized by her tactical outfit. He watches her walk away, muttering about how revealing people's clothes are these days. But he's got bigger things on his mind. Switch 2, he decides it's time to see what his fist can really do, and he's not going to hold back against people like this. Deep inside a large, traditional-style building, the guild master looks up, sensing something's about to happen. The entire structure is a grand, multi-story pagoda, buzzing with activity. Suddenly, a massive explosion of force rips through the building, sending debris flying everywhere. Alice is caught right in the middle of the shockwave, barely able to stay on her feet. Dust and rubble rain down from a giant hole in the ceiling. It looks like a meteorite hit the place. The people inside are panicking, wondering what on earth just happened. It was too fast for anyone to see. In the middle of the wreckage, Jin Kwon is lying flat on his back, looking completely spent. The guild master stands over him, club in hand. One of the guild members has a eureka moment, pointing a finger at the scene. He shouts that it must have been the guild master's incredible skill that caused all this destruction. He's in awe, saying the guild master was so fast that he only saw him raise his club for a split second. The guild master is sweat-dropping behind his mask, clearly having no idea what happened, but he decides to just roll with it. Or is it not? Did I swing it? He thinks. He lets out a boisterous laugh, bragging that he shouldn't use his skills so recklessly since no building can survive them. The lackeys are eating it up. Jin Kwon, still lying on the floor, thinks to himself about how tricky this situation has become. He really underestimated his own power. He looks up with a tired expression, realizing he can't just throw punches like he did in the mountains. He remembers the moment he launched the attack, the sheer force of it radiating from his fist. He saw two kids playing with a ball nearby and realized he was about to cause a disaster. His eyes widened in shock as he realized the magnitude of the strike he'd already committed to. He knew that if he let the fist land where he'd aimed, everything within range would be pulverized. It was a terrifying realization. But a fist that's already been thrown is like a speeding train. You can't just stop it. It's got too much momentum. He gripped his wrist with his other hand, desperate to do something, anything, to save the innocent bystanders. The only thing he could do in that split second was try to change the punch's direction and hope for the best. With a grunt of pure effort, he forced his arm upward, sending the massive shockwave straight through the roof instead of the crowd. The resulting blast was enough to destroy the entire upper level of the building, but at least no one was hurt. It was a close call. The guild master looks down at Jin Kwon with a smirk, finding the whole thing pretty interesting. He's got no idea the kid just saved his life. The thugs standing around are convinced Jin Kwon has lost his mind. They think he's just babbling nonsense after being beaten by their boss. Night falls and the moon shines through the bars of a high window. It's quiet now. In the cold, dark cell, the other prisoners are fast asleep on the stone floor. It's a grim place. Jin Kwon sits in the shadows, deep in thought. He realizes that if he keeps swinging like that, innocent people are going to get hurt. He needs to learn restraint. He looks up, a calm resolve on his face. "Come to think of it, we haven't introduced ourselves yet, have we?" he asks. He looks over at his cellmate with a steady gaze. "My name is Jin Kwon." Jin Kwon smiles at the young woman through the bars. "Alice, that's a rather peculiar name," he muses, finding it as small and strange as her generosity. He starts munching on the single rice ball she gave him. "But seriously, isn't a single rice ball a bit stingy as a reward for selling me out?" he grumbles, wishing for some meat. Alice holds her head in frustration. She can't believe he's complaining about side dishes when he's locked in a cage. "Don't you understand the situation you're in?" she asks. She points an accusing finger at him, shouting, "Aren't you even angry? I tricked you." She seems more upset about it than he is. Jin Kwon just looks at her calmly. "So, is the problem resolved now?" he asks, catching her off guard. She flinches, her face full of conflicted emotions. She looks away, clutching her arm. "It's true that I needed the money," she admits quietly. "It's true that my older sister is sick. So, I just came to tell you that I won't feel sorry at all," she says, her voice trembling slightly. She's trying to convince herself more than him. She remembers the harsh reality of the world they live in, a world where the strong take from the weak, and survival is everything. Everyone says it's just the way things are now. "The one who gets tricked is the fool, not the one who tricks," she yells at his back, her hands shaking with suppressed emotion. "That's why." Jin Kwon sighs, thinking to himself that while the world has changed, some things like the struggle for survival and the weight of a guilty conscience remain exactly the same. Alice is stunned by his reaction. "Whatever the case, it means I'm going to be of help in curing your sister's illness, right?" Jin Kwon says, finally turning to face her. "Then that's enough." Alice can only stare, speechless. He gives her a small, kind smile. "There's no need to feel sorry. I was the one who offered to resolve it first anyway." He's surprisingly forgiving for someone who's been betrayed. "Instead, make sure your sister's illness is completely cured," he tells her. Alice looks at him with wide, teary eyes, completely taken aback by his selflessness. He looks away, his voice tinged with a deep, personal sadness. There is nothing more filled with regret than failing to protect your family. Alice bites her lip, clearly moved. She suddenly snaps at him, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. WH, who's worrying about whom? You foolish beggar. She's clearly using anger to hide her growing guilt. If you feel bad about it, just grant me one favor, Jin Kwon says with a sly grin. Just look after the book I brought. I'll be back to get it soon. Alice scoffs, but she takes the book anyway. I'll keep an eye on it, she mutters, looking at the book with a frown. It smells, so I can't keep it for long. Her blush tells a different story, though. Come back quickly or don't. Do whatever you can, she says, walking away from the prison. Behind her, a horse-drawn carriage pulls out of the courtyard, carrying Jin Kwon and the other prisoners into the night. The carriage rattles along a bumpy forest road. The wheels creak and groan as they pass through an eerie, fog-filled woods. This forest is eerie even in the middle of the day, one guard mutters. The other guard scolds him, saying they have to take this route to avoid the Hunter Association. We are buying and selling slaves illegally. If we get caught, it's all over. They pass a sign that warns of a B-rank monster appearance zone and prohibits entry. To think this is a B-rank zone? No matter how many lives we have, it wouldn't be enough, one guard says nervously. The carriage finally comes to a halt in front of a dark, imposing gate. We've arrived, the guard calls out. The heavy iron bars rattle as the carriage is brought inside. Come on, don't dawdle and get out here quickly, a guard shouts, hitting the bars with a spear. Jin Kwon wakes up with a stretch, wondering what all the noise is about. The other prisoners look terrified. A large, obese man in fine robes, the auction master, looks over the new arrivals. So you're saying new slaves have arrived? He asks. The guard confirms, adding that the mock guild sent a tall and sturdy one this time. Oh, the auction master muses, his eyes landing on Jin Kwon. The auction master watches from above, his eyes lighting up at the sight of the new arrivals. He's heard a particularly sturdy one just came in, and he's already calculating the profit. He's a mountain of greed, draped in fur and jewelry while nursing a glass of wine. To him, these people are nothing more than high-value merchandise. Down in the pens, the guards shove the prisoners along, barking at them to move faster. They make it clear that anyone who slacks off is going to leave with broken limbs. Jin Kwon doesn't seem to mind the threats at all. He's too busy inhaling a massive pile of meat, his cheeks bulging as he enjoys his first real meal in ages. Then comes the grooming. A guard vigorously scrubs his hair, complaining that nothing kills a buyer's interest like a head of greasy hair. After a decade in the harsh mountains, even a bucket of cold water feels like a luxury. Jin Kwon stands there with a blissful look as they wash him down. He eventually sinks into a steaming tub, sighing with relief. 10 years of mountain grime and sweat are finally being scrubbed away. He starts thinking that this slave life might actually be a sweet deal. The man bringing his towel can't believe anyone could be this happy about being sold at auction. Jin Kwon looks up and does a double take. He recognizes the man standing over him from the mountain path he took to get here. It's the old merchant he met earlier. The man explains that being a peddler was just one of his many gigs, and right now, he's working as a bathhouse attendant. He introduces himself as Shib Jobsu, a name he earned because he's always juggling at least 10 different jobs at once. Jin Kwon just introduces himself as he is. Shib tries to warn him that the pampering ends the moment the scrubbing is over, but Jin Kwon is just happy to be washed and fed. Their conversation is cut short when a heavy thud echoes through the room. A massive boot steps into view, signaling that bath time is officially over. Down in the Seol Mansion's dungeon, they're busy branding the new slaves. One of the overseers notices a prisoner who isn't even ready yet. It's Jin Kwon, and he's casually putting his shirt back on like he's just finished a workout. The supervisor is baffled. Jin Kwon gives a polite smile and says he'll skip the branding today. With a quick flex, the heavy iron chain between his wrists just snaps like string. The guard loses it as the broken slave starts lecturing them about how bodies are precious gifts from parents. Jin Kwon decides he's done here and starts walking out. The guards try to pile on, but they might as well be trying to stop a freight train. He drags them along the floor, thanking them for their hard work, as if they're helping him move furniture. Up in the main house, a guy catches sight of this human train and starts screaming for reinforcements. Jin Kwon barely notices, way too distracted by the fancy decor and the massive chandelier hanging from the ceiling. He's actually impressed by how huge the place is, though he figures it's probably time to find the exit. He spots two servants and asks if they know the way out, mentioning they look familiar from the bathhouse earlier. The servants are understandably terrified, but Jin Kwon just suggests they all head out together since they're going the same way. He continues his stroll down the hall, completely unbothered by the growing pile of guards desperately clinging to his back. They finally make it to the main entrance, which is just as ridiculously spacious as the rest of the mansion. But the escape isn't going to be that easy. A loud voice booms out, telling him it's useless to try and run. The auction master steps out with a squad of spearmen, laughing about how he predicted a slave like him would try something. He's even brought some high-level muscle, a C-rank hunter named Myeongchung. Myeongchung is one of those guys who loves the sound of his own voice, immediately launching into a long-winded speech about his own talent. He goes on and on about defying his fate as a civil servant to train under some grand master on Unbong Mountain. Before he can finish his brag, something massive slams into him. Blood sprays everywhere as the illustrious hunter is crushed. The auction master is left standing there, covered in blood and staring at the empty space where his bodyguard used to be. A giant, horned bear looms over the scene. This is a B-rank mountain bear, and it definitely isn't here to talk. The beast roars and starts swinging. Suddenly, the slave trader is the one screaming for his life. The guards lose their minds, realizing their top-tier hunter was just turned into paste in a single blow. Everyone starts running for the hills, while Jin Kwon just stands there, calmly judging the monster's weird appearance. The bear roars right in his face, but Jin Kwon is stuck thinking about his missing book. Meanwhile, back in the neon-lit streets of Yeonmu village, Yang So-jin is walking home, looking like she's carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. She stops in a quiet alleyway, staring blankly at the pavement. She's full of regret, thinking about the medicine she promised to bring home today. Hey, a voice from above cuts through her thoughts. Jin Kwon is casually perched on a ledge like a gargoyle, asking if she's been taking care of his martial arts manual. So-jin nearly jumps out of her skin, unable to believe he actually managed to escape that mansion. Jin Kwon plays it off cool, saying they basically just let him walk away after the bear showed up. He asks how her sister is doing, just as a fit of heavy coughing echoes from inside the nearby house. So-jin rushes through the door, shouting for her sister. Inside, a young girl with long pink hair is doubled over coughing. So-jin begs her to stop trying to talk. Jin Kwon follows them in, feeling a bit awkward about the timing but still wanting his book back. The girl on the bed looks up, noticing they have a guest in their house. This is Yang So-hai. She tries to be polite, apologizing for not being able to stand up to greet him. Jin Kwon narrows his eyes, getting a closer look at her. He can feel something radiating off her. It isn't martial arts energy, it feels alien and completely unpleasant. So-jin breaks down, admitting that she lost everything and couldn't keep her promise. So-jin is in tears, devastated that the money for her sister's medicine and the book she was supposed to protect are both gone. She was completely powerless when those bastards cornered her. Nahandi, the masked master of the mock guild, loomed over her like a nightmare, explaining how her debt had ballooned into thousands of gold thanks to interest and fees. He tossed a measly bag of 30 gold at her, calling it her cut after robbing her blind. The cruelty in his eyes was unmistakable as he looked down on her. Even then, So-jin begged him to at least let her take her luggage, which contained Jin Kwon's precious manual. Nahandi just laughed, claiming that anything in his hands now belonged to him. His goons joined in, mocking her for even daring to ask. To make his point, he kicked her aside like she was nothing but trash in the street. He told her that in this world, it's the people who get scammed who are the real fools. With a final threat, he told her to get lost before he decided to sell her off to cover the rest of her debt. Left with nothing, So-jin could only sit in the dirt and cry. Back in the present, So-jin bows her head, the words "I'm sorry" barely leaving her lips. She promised her sister So-hai that she'd get their things back, but she returned empty-handed. Jin-kwon stands by, watching the sister's plight with a focused expression. He places a steadying hand on So-jin's shoulder. He tells her that while the world might favor scammers, those guys are about to learn there's a very steep price to pay. He gently lifts So-hai up, telling So-jin she should try being a bit more positive from here on out. So-hai, surprised by the sudden help, curiously asks what his relationship with her sister actually is. Jin-kwon sets her back down and admits that their situation is a little complicated. He takes some of the blame, nodding that he's partially responsible for why they can't get the medicine. Looking at him with trust, So-hai asks if she can leave her sister in his capable hands. He agrees, but he has one condition for the sick girl. He tells her to not let her illness win, and that they'll be back with her medicine soon. It's time to go. He tells So-jin to get moving. They aren't just going for a walk, they're going to take back their money and his book. They arrive at a brick building, but So-jin stops him. This isn't the guild building they were at earlier. She explains that this back alley leads to their secret headquarters. By day, they pretend to be a normal guild, but once the sun goes down, it's a different story. Inside, they find a massive underground gambling den teeming with people. So-jin hands him a dark cloak to hide his martial arts gear. If they're going to infiltrate this place, they at least need to try and blend in. The room is loud, filled with the sounds of people throwing their lives away on games of chance. So-jin points toward the center of the room, identifying the most popular game in the house. It's a slap fighting ring, where massive men take turns hitting each other for sport. Jin-kwon is incredulous. People actually gamble on who can slap the hardest. So-jin confirms that the entire guild's economy basically revolves around these fights. Suddenly, a familiar voice calls out to them from the crowd. It's Shib Jobsu, the merchant from before, but now he's sporting a pink schoolgirl skirt and a visor. Jin-kwon just stares, wondering if something has gone seriously wrong with Destiny. He honestly has to ask if the line between men's and women's clothing has just completely disappeared. So-jin, on the other hand, can't even hide the pure disgust written all over her face. Shib Jobsu continues his lecture on how there should be no boundaries between professions, while fiddling with his schoolgirl visor. On the floor below, the main event is in full swing. Two massive men take turns brutally slapping each other across a small table. One fighter delivers a thunderous blow that sends spit and sweat flying as his opponent's head snaps back. The victor raises his arms in triumph while the loser collapses to the floor, unable to endure the punishment. Watching from the balcony, Jin-kwon notes the simplicity of the game. Bet money, and the winner takes all. So-jin warns him not even to think about joining in. A close-up reveals the sheer violence of the sport. One wrong move and a fighter could end up dead from a single strike. The announcer's voice booms over the crowd, declaring that the champion has struck again. It's none other than the master of the mock guild himself. Na-handi, the B-rank hunter, stands proudly in his Oni mask, mocking the audience and daring anyone stronger to step up and try their luck. Jin-kwon narrows his eyes. He's found the man who has his book. He realizes that if he wants to get on that stage, he's going to need some gambling money first. He slowly turns his gaze toward Shib Jobsu, starting to ask for a loan, but he stops himself for a moment. The old man looks absolutely terrified, sensing what's coming, but Jin-kwon just tells him to never mind. Suddenly, Jin-kwon throws a heavy arm around the old man's shoulders, bringing up his earlier comment about destiny. Shib Jobsu is sweating bullets as Jin-kwon gives him a dark, predatory grin. Jin-kwon claims he's just giving his senior the desperate, pleading look of a junior in need of some help. Moments later, Jin-kwon is holding a heavy bag of gold while Shib Jobsu tries to save face, claiming he's just sponsoring a promising junior. Down in the ring, Na-handi is getting impatient, shouting that if people don't have money, they should bet their wives or daughters instead. Suddenly, a heavy bag of gold thuds onto the stage right in front of the guild master. Jin-kwon steps out into the light, declaring his intent to bet. Na-handi recognizes him immediately as the slave who was sold off, while Jin-kwon calmly asks if he's the one who has his book. The guild master laughs hysterically at the bug, who crawled back, as the bewildered announcer asks how they should decide who goes first. Nahandi arrogantly points to his own cheek, telling the scrawny slave to take the first shot right there. The crowd erupts in laughter, mocking the cloaked newcomer for throwing away his money and his life. But Jin Kwon isn't listening. He's been searching for a way to handle a very specific problem. His strength is so overwhelming that he fears he might accidentally kill innocent people whenever he fights. He needed a method, a way to apply his power without turning everything he touches into dust. He was looking for a way to suppress and control his devastating force. He knew that the more perfect the form of a fist, the more its power is multiplied. If a full-on punch would destroy everything around him, he had to consider an alternative. He wondered what would happen if he did the exact opposite of a focused fist. The spectators gasp in shock as a sudden, violent shockwave erupts from the stage. Faces in the crowd twist in pure disbelief at the sight before them. Nahandi is slumped face down in a massive crater in the floor, completely unconscious. So-jin and Shib-jobsu can only stare in horror, wondering if that world-shaking strike was even supposed to be a slap. Jin Kwon smirks, explaining that he's discovered a brand new fist technique. He calls it the Sadigi fist, a technique that shatters massive energy into fragments before releasing it. While he proudly announces the name, everyone else in the room is thinking the exact same thing. That was literally just a slap. Ignoring their confusion, Jin Kwon tells the announcer he'll be taking his winnings now. Furious, the guild's men draw their swords and spears, screaming at everyone to kill the intruder. Jin Kwon remains unfazed, nodding that he still needs to find out where they put his luggage. As the goons charge toward him, he simply comments that their timing is perfect. He readies himself, his power beginning to surge once more as the real fight begins. Nahandi lies defeated on the floor, his face twisted in a mix of pain and shock as the dust settles. Jin Kwon stands amidst the wreckage of the guild's hall, thinking to himself that he's finally getting a feel for how to restrain his power. He glances back at So-jin and Shib-jobsu, checking that they've managed to secure his luggage and the heavy bag of prize money. So-jin can only stare at him with wide, trembling eyes as the reality of his incredible strength finally sinks in. Jin Kwon notices her staring and asks what she's waiting for, his expression unreadable behind his dark hair. He gives her a confident, reassuring smile, telling her it's time to go get the medicine her sister needs. They soon arrive at a massive, ornate building that looks more like a palace than a common medical clinic. So-jin is moved to tears by Jin Kwon's kindness, while Shib-jobsu declares that he knew the spirit of chivalry was still alive in the young man's heart. Jin Kwon plays it cool, telling them to stop the chatter and just head inside so they can finish their mission. He pushes open the heavy clinic doors, the wood creaking loudly in the quiet night air as they step into the gloom. The moment he enters, Jin Kwon comes to a dead stop, his face contorting as he catches a whiff of something truly foul. The smell triggers a vivid memory, a young Jin Kwon retching on the floor while his father, Master Jinmyu, basks in a tub of dark medicinal liquid. Master Jinmyu laughs at his son's weak stomach, insisting that a real man should be able to handle a little stench for the sake of power. While the boy continues to suffer, the massive warrior sits perfectly relaxed in the steaming, purple brew. Covering his nose, the young Jin Kwon asks why on earth his father would choose to sit in a vat of such disgusting sludge. Master Jinmyu looks down at his hands, his voice taking on a serious tone as he mentions his greatest regret as a martial artist. He confesses that because of this very smell, he was never able to forge a body that could resist any poison. He admits that his own keen sense of smell was a curse, making the putrid training brew impossible for him to endure. In a sudden burst of energy, Master Jinmyu jumps out of the vat, drenching the room and his screaming son in the foul purple water. In the present, Jin Kwon is nearly overwhelmed by the urge to turn around and run away from the familiar, nauseating scent. His eyes narrow as he focuses on the thick, purple haze drifting through the hallway, recognizing the signs of dangerous alchemy. A mysterious, hooded figure slowly materializes from the gloom, nodding the arrival of guests at such a late hour. Beekmundu, the apothecary, peers out with a calm smile, though Jin Kwon immediately identifies him as a master of poison arts. The apothecary explains that the surge in plague victims has forced him to keep the clinic open through the night to prepare remedies. Beekmundu explains that while there haven't been any deaths yet, the plague has already swept through the entire village. So Jin is devastated thinking about how many people are suffering. But there's good news. He's finally managed to refine a cure for the sickness. It's made from rare ingredients that are hard to come by these days, like snow ginseng, red blue snake, and jade bee honey. When combined, they create the powerful yin-yang elixir. The doctor shows off the finished pills, noting how lucky they are to have the expertise to make them in this era. He hands the bag over to Jin Kwon, promising that the added ingredients will help restore their energy quickly. So Jin clutches the medicine, her face lighting up with hope as she thanks the apothecary. He just waves it off, telling her to make sure the medicine is taken consistently until the recovery is complete. Beekmundu keeps up his polite act, offering further assistance if they still don't feel quite right. While they talk, Jin Kwon is already in the back, snooping through the apothecary's storage drawers. He gives a cheeky smile, claiming he just thought the ingredients were fascinating. Then the doctor drops the bad news. Because demand is so high, the price of the medicine is about to skyrocket. He laments that even with 2 bodies, he wouldn't be able to keep up with how fast it's selling. The group heads out into the night, but Sojin is clearly still weighed down by the cost. She looks at the medicine pouch with a heavy heart, realizing that the money she thought would last a month is already gone. She's left worrying about how they're going to survive next week with no savings left. Suddenly, Jin Kwon reaches over and snatches the bag right out of her hands. He tells her he needs to check something, which immediately sets off alarm bells. And then he just pops one of the insanely expensive pills right into his mouth like it's candy. Sojin is absolutely horrified, but he just shrugs and says he's exhausted from helping people all day. He tells her to stop being so stingy while he casually snacks on a rice ball. Old man Shib Jobsu can only watch from the sidelines, wondering what's wrong with this guy. The mood in the room finally shifts as they get down to business. They give the medicine to Sojin's sister, who takes it without hesitation. Almost instantly, her complexion returns and she looks healthier than she has in a long time. Sojin breaks down in tears of joy, holding her sister's hand and thanking the heavens. She turns to Jin Kwon, thanking him for actually listening to her desperate request. Both sisters are overwhelmed with gratitude for their young hero. Even Shib Jobsu is moved by the scene, watching with a soft smile. Jin Kwon just gives a small, satisfied smirk, knowing his job here is done. The next morning, the sun shines through the window as he prepares for his next big challenge, breakfast. He asks the old man if he can put some actual meat in the rice balls from now on. Jin Kwon is just chilling on a rooftop, taking a big bite out of a rice ball. He's actually enjoying it. Apparently, it tastes even better with meat. Suddenly, someone calls out, asking what the hell he's doing up there. It's the old merchant, Shib Jobsu. The kid doesn't even look back, saying the view makes the food taste better. Then he asks how Alice is doing. She's out cold. Looks like she hasn't slept in days, so she's finally getting some rest. Shib Jobsu hops up onto the roof to join him. Jin Kwon realizes the old man is a Murim practitioner too. The senior admits he's just an old man who couldn't adapt to the changing times, so he just takes whatever work he can find. But more importantly, the elder saw what the kid did earlier. He saw him switch those medicine pouches back at the pharmacy. Flashback to the pharmacy, Jin Kwon's hands were fast. He has sticky fingers and managed to grab some pouches while nobody was looking. Shib Jobsu asks if he actually tried the medicine himself, and if he's absolutely sure that the stuff he took was fake. Jin Kwon explains that while some poisons can be used as medicine, this was different. It helped with pain but was dangerously addictive. So he swapped the addictive stuff with actual healing ingredients from the pharmacy's own stock. Shib Jobsu realized the girl would have been devastated if she knew she was essentially poisoning people. He calls Jin Kwon a chivalrous hero for stopping them from falling into despair. The kid just shrugs it off, saying the old man is the one doing the real work without expecting anything in return. The elder is definitely curious about this kid now. As night falls, the scene shifts to the pharmacy. Beekmundu, the apothecary, is meeting with two masked agents in brown robes. He's handing over this month's tribute. He's added a little extra this time. Hopping his membership into their organization will finally be processed. The agents mock him, saying he's become quite the smooth talker since he started selling medicine. The apothecary just smiles and hands over the bag, calling them senior. He looks a bit nervous as they check it. He tries to play it off when they notice something's off about the amount. The agent tells him magic stone distribution is down across the whole organization. If he wants to get in, he's going to have to cough up twice the usual tribute next time. Beekmundu can only bow and thank them for the consideration. They mention that someone attacked their slave market recently, probably the chaos Jin Kwon caused earlier. They warn him to keep his mouth shut if any info gets out. The apothecary bows them out, wishing them a safe journey. The door shuts behind them with a click. As soon as they're gone, he slams the tribute bag down in a rage. He's fuming that they want even more after taking so much. He just needs to get into the organization first. He grits his teeth, vowing to pay back this humiliation 1,000 times over. Suddenly, he realizes he isn't alone. Someone is sitting right behind him. It's Jin Kwon, casually munching on one of those poison pills he stole. The apothecary warns him that taking medicine recklessly makes it a poison. Jin Kwon just grins, saying he's pretty confident in his stomach. Beekmundu gets a greedy look, thinking he's about to get paid for another sale. But Jin Kwon says he's the one who should be getting paid this time. He found some effective medicine for the doctor. The doctor is confused, wondering what the hell he's talking about. Jin Kwon holds out a hand full of those addictive poison pellets. Jin Kwon grins, telling the con artist that stick medicine works best for his kind. Beekmundu's eyes glow red as he mocks the young hero, telling him it's better to look the other way sometimes. Without another word, the apothecary lashes out. He unleashes his apothecary skill, Poison Needle Strike. A hail of needles fly through the air, aimed right at Jin Kwon's vital spots. They're designed to keep tracking the target until they hit home. But Jin Kwon is a blur of motion, catching the needles midair as he moves. Beekmundu is stunned. The kid stands there calmly, holding every single one of the needles. Before the apothecary can process what happened, Jin Kwon is right in his face. A massive flash of impact erupts between the two of them. Beekmundu is sent tumbling back through the air. He crashes hard into the floor, coughing and gasping for air. He's desperate now, wondering who could possibly be this strong in a place like this. Jin Kwon looks down at him, disgusted that someone would use needles meant for saving lives to kill people instead. Even though the kid's energy output is minimal, his technique is incredibly refined. Jin Kwon decides it's time to teach this guy some actual manners. Beekmundu is shaken, asking which organization the young hero is from. The kid just tells him to pick one, speak formally or casually, because it won't matter in a second anyway. The apothecary realizes how agile and quiet the boy is. He thinks he's an assassin, but there are no weapons. He asks if he's a fist fighter instead. Jin Kwon just looks at him coldly, saying he doesn't know about being a fist fighter, but his name is Jin Kwon. Beekmundu estimates he's at least B rank, maybe even higher. But if he's just a fist fighter, the apothecary thinks he has the advantage. He starts gathering a mass of dark, swirling energy in his palm. He unleashes another apothecary skill, Toxic Blood Torrent. A thick purple cloud of poison fills the room, making Jin Kwon cough. The apothecary laughs, saying a fist fighter's strength comes from their sight and breathing. And a fighter who can't see or breathe is nothing more than a scarecrow with stamina. He leaps into the air for a finishing blow. He prepares a brand new skill to end the fight. He calls it the Poison Vortex. He's confident he's won, thinking it's only fair to give back what you get. But as the smoke starts to clear, he sees something that stops him in his tracks. Jin Kwon just stands there, watching as a drop of poison drips from the apothecary's hand. The kid smiles, saying he'll show him something he learned, his own new fist. Beekmundu grunts in pain as Jin Kwon suddenly seizes his arm. Jin Kwon just looks annoyed, complaining that the foul smell of the poison is making him feel sick. The apothecary desperately tries to leap away. He uses pharmacist's skill, first aid, to maximize his healing and close his wounds. He's confused. Do martial artists even have finger-based skills? Jin Kwon just gives him a smug look, saying this isn't just some skill. He raises his hand, extending a single finger toward him. Then he adds a second one, explaining that he devised this martial art himself. It's the finger fist. Jin Kwon grins, holding up his fingers. I call it finger fist. Beekmundu is outraged. That's some load of nonsense, he yells, gathering a purple aura. I've never heard of a skill like that which only belongs in comics. Without missing a beat, Jin Kwon strikes, his fingers hitting Beekmundu's arm with a sharp crack. He follows up with another precision strike to the same spot. The apothecary clutches his arm in pain. Jin Kwon calmly corrects him, it's not a skill. He points his hand at his opponent again, finger fist. Beekmundu is sweating now, his frustration mounting. I told you I've never even heard of such a skill. Jin Kwon's fingers slam into him again, a burst of energy erupting from the contact. Finger fist, Jin Kwon repeats, standing tall while the apothecary reels. Beekmundu struggles to maintain his footing, his dread growing as the kid remains completely unfazed. You bastard, the apothecary screams. How much longer do you intend to make a fool of me? Jin Kwon just looks at him, nodding how weaklings often have the loudest voices. He muses that masters are said to have ways of subduing people with just their fingers. Beekmundu's eyes widen as a realization hits him. Don't tell me, is it acupoint striking? That's it. This guy was a martial artist. He charges forward again, refusing to accept defeat. Do you think I'd be defeated by such an antiquated relic? I can just defend my acupoints. I'll launch a... Jin Kwon doesn't let him finish, unleashing a barrage of strikes. Finger fist to paralyze the upper body. He hits multiple points in quick succession. Wrist, elbow, and finally one to instill etiquette. Then he lets out a powerful strike, yelling, just finger fist. The impact is so intense it rattles Beekmundu's entire skeleton. Ugh. The apothecary collapses to the floor, gasping. Jin Kwon looks down, remarking that even sound can be suppressed with just a finger. Why, you lunatic? Beekmundu wheezes, spit dripping from his mouth. He struggles to sit up, shouting that the fingers aren't the problem, it's the sheer force behind the stabs. Forget finger fist, that is. Jin Kwon just gives a smug grin, because I decided to call it that. He reflects on the endless training he endured, and the vow he made never to lose to people like this in anything. Whether it's martial arts, character, or even physical appearance. He even includes rock, paper, scissors in his list, looking surprisingly bashful about it. Beekmundu is just confused by the shift in conversation. Jin Kwon jokes that if he wanted to beat the finger fist, he should have played rock. The apothecary is livid. He retorts that if Jin Kwon had played rock, he would have hit him with a four-slap fist. Beekmundu reaches into his robes and pulls out a glowing purple vial. How dare you, a mere martial artist? You, a B-rank hunter, how much longer are you going to toy with me? He shatters the vial, releasing a surge of power from the monster crystals he's been hoarding. A dark, ominous aura swirls around him. I will show you my power, pharmacist's special skill, poison blood release. His face twists into a maniacal grin as his eyes glow bright red. Ah, this power is A-rank, far beyond B-rank. He gathers a dense sphere of energy between his hands. I will show you. He unleashes a massive explosion of power. As the smoke clears, Jin Kwon stands perfectly still, his expression hidden in shadow. Out of nowhere, a blinding flash of white light fills the area. Beekmundu looks down in horror, seeing what looks like a massive hole blown through his torso. Huh. His mind reels as he feels his body disintegrating under the sheer pressure. He stares in utter disbelief. But then the vision fades, and he finds himself still standing, though drenched in sweat. What is this? Just now my body. Jin Kwon is standing right in front of him, arm extended as if he just finished a punch. "You startled me," he says coolly. Beak Mundu frantically checks his body. What? I'm not dead. My body was definitely blown apart." Jin Kwon pulls back his fist, looking unimpressed. "It looked like you were about to do something earlier. Want to try again?" Jin Kwon stares down at his defeated opponent with a cold, unimpressed gaze. "You said you were going to show me your true ability," he says flatly. "If you want to do more, just say so." Beak Mundu's hand trembles, his fist clenched tight as he struggles to process the overwhelming gap in their power. His pupils dilate in pure terror, the memory of his body being torn apart, even if it was just an illusion, haunting his mind. Overcome with fear, Beak Mundu drops to his knees and presses his head to the floor. "Greetings, master, and my name is Baek Mundu," he cries out. Jin Kwon looks down, baffled. "What do you mean by master?" The scene shifts to the tranquil grounds of a traditional estate, where sunlight filters through the trees onto the tiled roofs. Inside, Yang So-jin lies in bed, her face pale and covered in sweat as a sickly purple mist escapes her lips. Now acting as a healer, Beak Mundu uses his abilities to draw out the toxins from her body. "I removed the poison and applied acupuncture," he explains with a much more subservient tone. Jin Kwon watches skeptically, crossing his arms. "So this plague was a pathetic poison you spread around," he mutters. Beak Mundu laughs nervously, assuring him that her energy is only slightly weakened. Yang So-jin remains unconscious, her expression pained as she recovers from the effects of the toxin. With a proud flourish, Beak Mundu holds up a glowing pill he just created. "This is the medicine I just concocted. You'll feel much better once you take this, so don't worry." Shibjobsu watches with interest, stroking his beard. "Oh, were you a pharmacist, not just an ordinary physician?" he asks. Jin Kwon, however, is lost. "What is a pharmacist?" An explanation follows. When a person awakens as a hunter, they gain specific traits like being a swordsman, mage, or thief. Among these, certain rare traits occasionally appear, and pharmacist is one of the most elusive. These individuals possess advanced medicinal skills that are incredibly sought after because of their extreme rarity. Beak Mundu basks in the praise, pressing his hands together with a smug grin. "That is a great insight, Elder. As you just heard, I, Beak Mundu, am a rare and capable person." His boasting is cut short when Yang So-jin, without warning, sits up and delivers a sharp chop to the top of his head. "Bullshit," she yells. "Gack," he shrieks. She continues to scold him, looking down at the groveling apothecary. "You're still just a criminal who spread a plague in the village, aren't you? What are you so proud of?" Beak Mundu grits his teeth, his temper flaring for a moment. "This F***C King," he starts to snarl. He stops dead when he sees Jin Kwon standing right behind him, fingers raised in a menacing acupoint-striking pose. A dark aura surrounds the martial artist. "F-U-C-K," the apothecary whimpers. In an instant, Beak Mundu is back on the floor, bowing his head in a frantic apology. Yang So-jin isn't satisfied, shouting at him to actually answer her question. Jin Kwon ignores the bickering, his expression turning serious. "Rare talent and that kind of skill to boot. Why did you do such a thing?" The apothecary remains silent for a moment, the bravado completely gone from his eyes. He holds out his palm, showing Jin Kwon the shattered remnants of the purple crystals he used in the fight. "It's because of this," he says quietly. "Isn't this what you were using earlier when we fought?" "Yes, although it's all broken now." He gestures toward a bag filled with glowing monster crystals, the primary source of energy in this post-Gate era. The world changed because of monster crystals. They allowed for the construction of massive buildings that were once considered impossible. Hunters are obsessed with them for a reason. Obtaining one means getting your hands on power that completely surpasses your current rank. But they aren't easy to come by. You only find them in areas with high mana density or inside high-level monsters. Beak Mundu explains the logic. Meeting the tribute quota meant getting access to black market items no regular hunter could touch. Yang So-jin isn't interested in his excuses. She wants to know exactly what happened to all the money they've paid so far. The answer is short and cold. Beak tells her he's already paid every cent of it as tribute. She immediately loses it. grabbing him by the collar and screaming for her money back while Shib Jobsu tries to calm her down. Beak just mocks her. He calls her a dim-witted C-rank for trying to find money that's clearly long gone. Then she spots it. If he's supposedly broke, what's with all the expensive jewelry around his neck? The room goes dead silent as everyone stares at the gold and pearls dangling from his collar. Beak tries to play the sympathy card, claiming they're nothing but mementos left behind by his father. Sojin isn't buying the sentimental act. She starts swinging while Shib Jobsu desperately tries to get her to use her words instead. After taking a beating, Beak insists that everything else was already handed over to his superiors. Jin Kwon perks up at that. He wants to know exactly who these superiors are. The room stays tense as the protagonist waits for an answer. Beak finally caves. He realizes he has no choice and offers to lead them directly to the people he's been working for. He name-drops the Red Blood Alliance, figuring their reputation for arrogance will finally get him some backup. Jin Kwon just looks confused. He's never heard of them and asks if it's an army or an alliance. Sojin is absolutely flabbergasted. She asks him if he's literally been living in the mountains for 10 years to not know that name. Beak explains that they are the top dogs, the legendary 4 heavenly kings of the New Murim. They are the Guild of the Blood God, a name that finally makes Jin Kwon's eyes sharpen with intent. The apothecary finally spills the name, the Blood God. A massive shadow looms over Jin Kwon as the true scale of the organization he's up against starts to set in. It's not just some local corrupt doctor anymore. This guild is on a completely different level.